O-R-I-E-N. So it's on Spotify, anything, you just look at my name, Orion Turner. It'll be right there.
Yeah.
And it's her singing on it too. Okay. So I wanted to tell a couple more things before we wrap up the house here. So Mickey was initiated into the Petroleum Wives Club, which is, I mean, you all know what that is, but it's important to know this because she wasn't married to an oil man. She was married to a fisherman, right? Okay, good. She was married to a fisherman, not an oil man, so this was like very taboo, very strange. It was because she took care of all these men as they would come to work. She would, have a place for them to stay, have things for them to do, have food and all these things, and so she would always take care of them. And so they made her a member, not just an honorary member, a full-time initiated member, which apparently there was a pretty intense initiation process that I was hearing about last night. And so that's just another beautiful thing about her leadership and action she took in this community. But most importantly, these kids had the time of their lives growing up in this restaurant. My grandma never quite lost that. In all of her life, her favorite thing to do was go out to eat. She loved when I took her out to share a meal. She wouldn't really eat. Like she might have a couple bites or anything. She'd really feed me, of course. She would cut up her food and literally hand me a fork, and I'd be like, okay. But in general, that was her thing. She loved to break bread with people. And so I think that's one of the reasons I love to go out to eat. But I think that's something that's very beautiful about her. So she thought that, after we could share a meal together, we could be connected. And her mom always said that a day's work should be marked by your ability to buy a steak dinner. Because every man or woman should be able to go to work and buy a steak at the end of the day. So that's a message too. So let's fix the affordability things going on. But also just a beautiful comment on their way of life. So these kids had the time of their lives. Susie would have lobster 1 to 2 times a day growing up. And it's important to know, a day. So 1 to 2 times a day she would eat lobster, and Royle would just eat cheeseburgers, apparently. He wasn't quite as tasteful as my grandmother, which of course makes sense. Okay, I've done enough talking. I'm going to sing a couple more songs. This song is about when you lose a loved one. And you kind of realize what they bring to your life, and how sometimes that's what life's about, being around people that you love. Okay, here we go. Over at the time, see how fast the clock has wind. I remember life's fine as long as we rewind. I look deep in the past to see where we've been, to remember all the laughs. Only care who, not what, where, when. And I realize that the world don't spin quite right when you're not by. And I realize that the world don't burn as bright when you're not yet my side. And I realize how good it is to be alive while you're alive. I remember all the walks to the park, how much we would talk about the dog's annoying bark. You taught me to be strong, how to do my part, how to admit when I'm wrong, and how to live and love by art. And I realize that the sun don't burn as bright when you're not at my side. And I realize that this world don't spin quite right realize how good it is to be alive while you're alive. Do 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 da 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 da. And I realize that the world don't spin quite right when you're not at my side. And I realize that the sun don't burn as bright when you're not by. And I realize how good it is to be alive while you're alive. Thank you.